Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Jasmine, and welcome back for another weekly weigh-in vlog. For any of you who might be new here, I have been on a weight loss journey using the GLP-1 compounded medication tirzepatide since January 1st of 2024. I am currently down right around 150 pounds. I share my weekly weigh-ins and other weight loss related content here, so if that is something you're into, be sure to hit the subscribe button. Today's video is going to potentially be a little bit of a long one, so I'm going to try not to ramble too much here in this little intro, but if you are solely interested in just seeing the progression of my entire weight loss journey using a compounded GLP-1 medication, I will leave the timestamps for that in this video. For starters, before we get into that, I am going to be going over my weekly weigh-in results, which I share here with you guys every week. So today is Tuesday, October the 14th, and I mentioned in last week's video, basically going forward, I am using Fridays as my official weigh-in day. So I will be going over my weigh-in results for last Friday, which was October the 10th. So starting with Friday, October the 3rd, I had officially weighed in at 191.4. And on Friday, October the 10th, I weighed in at 193.3. So I did gain 1.9 pounds for the week, which is highly irritating and frustrating. But you know what's more frustrating is that I weighed in this morning, because I've still been weighing every day, even though I am do not recommend that at all. It's terrible for at least my mental health, but I have been weighing daily, and I did weigh in this morning, today, Tuesday, October 14th. I weighed in at 195.4. But to be fair, I was expecting the scale to be up this morning because yesterday me and my family did go to a pumpkin patch, which the pumpkin patch we went to was absolutely phenomenal. It's called Divine Acres. It's kind of outside of San Antonio, and it was just great. It was a blast. We had a great time. I ate a lot of crap. I ate an apple cider donut, I had a margarita, and then we went out to eat afterwards. We went to Cheddar's, which I did not realize, I mean, I've been there once, but I forgot, like, they literally have the hugest portion sizes at Cheddar's. The food is great, but yeah, they gave me a ton of food. I wasn't able to finish it, but I did eat a lot of it, more than I typically would in the past when I was on higher doses of GLP-1, which I will get into how that's going as well, because as most of you probably know at this point, I am in the process of titrating off of my GLP-1, and in fact I did take my last dose of my tirzepatide last Tuesday. I took 2.5 milligrams, and I'm not planning to take any more. So I don't know how long it takes for tirzepatide to like get completely out of your system, but I mean, at this point I've been tapering down for a while, so I assume that there is not much left in my body, if there is any. But that being said, I definitely was able to put down a lot more food yesterday when we went out than I typically would, and that's fine. Honestly, yesterday, me and my husband, we work kind of opposite schedules. Like, he works Monday through Friday, I work the weekend, so we don't get to have time as like a whole family together doing things very often. So yesterday was honestly just kind of a one-off day that we were able to go out as a whole family, and like me, my husband, and my daughter, and spend time together and enjoy that. So I don't regret any of it. And yeah, like I said, I knew the scale would be up today because of it. Like I said in my last week's weigh-in vlog, I definitely have continued to have increasing food noise, more cravings, and just finding myself kind of on the struggle bus, which I expected fully when deciding to come off of the GLP-1. It is what it is. But one thing I will say though is that this morning, I am back fully on the wagon. I have been doing all of the things I need to do. I also restocked our groceries recently. Over the weekend, I bought a ton of groceries, and I actually picked up quite a few new like food items, kind of healthier choices. I have decided I am going to start tracking my fiber intake, because a lot of you did mention in my last video about how I don't get a lot of fiber in my diet, because I have shared like my what I eat in a day videos, and I'll be the first to admit I do not eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. I do not eat a lot of fiber, and so that's something I want to work on. I'm not saying I'm gonna be eating salads and vegetables every day going forward, but I do want to try to slowly start paying attention to it and tracking it and trying to hit a daily goal. So for now, I just kind of let my Nut Diary tracker app decide what my fiber target goal was, and it has me at 21 grams a day. So I feel like that's a good starting point. I know that's probably not like, I probably should be getting more than that, but I feel like for someone who has probably been eating way less than that on a daily basis, this is a good place to start. So this is where I'm gonna start. I don't wanna like give myself diarrhea or anything. But yeah, one thing I can say though is that this morning I had quite a bit of fiber. Like I ate like half an apple and like a fiber tortilla instead of my regular tortillas with my breakfast taco, and my stomach immediately responded to that. So I think that upping the fiber is going to be a good move. I've also decided at least for this week, I'm going to try to lower my calories just a tad bit and see if my body responds to that. I honestly, like for the past week, I was on track for the whole week aside from pretty much yesterday. Yesterday I didn't track at all. Yesterday I know I ate way too freaking much, but like for the whole week and weekend prior to that, I did track everything. I stayed in my calorie deficit that it's given me, and the scale still went up. So I feel like at this point I maybe need to lower my calories just a little bit, not a ton, but I am going to be tweaking it and just trying to get the scale moving again, because honestly I just feel like I've been in this stall for far too long, and so I think it's time, unfortunately, to lower my calories a little bit. So that is going to be what I am focusing on for the week ahead. One non-scale victory I did want to share this yesterday when we went to the pumpkin patch. We had gone the year prior, so we took my daughter when she was about 1 year old. She had just turned 1, I believe, last year when we took her, and I was a year into my weight loss journey at that point. And going again this year, I just noticed that I felt like we were able to do a lot more. Obviously it's hard to do a lot of the activities they had with a 1 year old, to be fair, but I also feel like, you know, just being able to walk around, and because it is a really big like property, and it was pretty hot, unfortunately. Yeah, it was like 80 degrees, but the sun was like out, and we went like probably the hottest time of day, but we did a lot of walking around, and I was able to keep up really well with that. And then they also had this little like barrel train thing. It's for little kids. They're these little red barrels that you sit in, and I was able to sit in one of those and have my daughter in it with me, and we did that. I honestly don't know if I would have been able to fit into that last year even. So yeah, that was kind of a non-scale victory, just being able to go out and do things with my daughter. You know, that honestly it makes the whole thing so worth it. It really does, just being able to be active with her. So I really enjoyed that. Okay, so like I said, I'm thinking this video might be a little bit long. I'm gonna try to keep it as short as possible. I don't want to ramble too much, but since I have officially come off of my GLP-1, I thought that it was time that I put out this video where I actually just do a month-by-month breakdown of the past, how many months, about 21 months that I've been on a GLP-1, and just kind of share my pictures and my weigh-ins and all of the things that I've tracked for the past 21 months on the compounded GLP-1 tirzepatide, because I know that a lot of people, are interested in that, especially people who are thinking about trying a GLP-1 and just kind of wanting to get an idea of what to possibly expect in terms of weight loss and how long it takes and stuff. But I do want to preface this by saying that everyone is different and everyone responds to these medications differently. Some people are like super responders and lose a ton of weight super quickly. Other people are slower responders. Some people don't respond at all. And so I really don't want you or anyone to compare your journey to mine. I just want to share my journey just to kind of give an example of a weight loss journey on a compounded GLP-1 medication. So I will start by saying that I am currently a 29, I will be 30 in November, year-old female. When I first started my GLP-1 medication back on January 1st of 2024, I believe I was, how old was I? I was 28 when I started this medication. Had just turned 28 in November. I am 5'3" and I do have PCOS. So those are all just kind of things, I guess, to keep in mind as well. So from the beginning of my journey, I have made it a point to take pictures of myself wearing a similar outfit on the first of every month and doing the same poses. I did this intentionally because I wanted to document the process and my progress, and I highly recommend, if you are someone who is going to be starting a GLP-1 or even just a weight loss journey in general, I highly recommend doing this because it is highly motivational to be able to track your progress. And especially once you get to the end or get far into your journey. I am not at the end of my journey. I am still currently actively trying to lose weight, and I still have like over 50 pounds to go. But having these pictures to look back at is very motivational for me. So I highly recommend doing something like that. And then I also have a calendar where I tracked how many pounds and how many inches I lost for each month, and I highly recommend doing that as well because it is also just a great tracking tool. The scale should not be the only way that you are tracking your progress on a weight loss journey. You should definitely try to use other tools and other means of tracking progress. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Starting off with month 1 on January 2024. I, for the whole month of January 2024, lost a total of 26.4 pounds and I lost 5.72 inches. And I have to say that I know a lot of that was just honestly like water weight and inflammation, and just the fact that I had made a drastic change. And it wasn't drastic in the sense of I went from eating crap all the time to like eating a strict diet or anything like that. Honestly, I have shared that the way I have lost my weight, yes, I've taken a GLP-1, but the way I personally have actually like stayed in a calorie deficit to lose the weight is by counting my calories. And in the beginning especially, I did not change the foods I was eating. I just changed the amount of food I was eating, and I cut back on my calories. And that was enough. That was enough. And that first month, I mean, losing 26 pounds was like the most amount of weight I have ever lost in a single month, like in my entire life. And even in the past, when I have tried to lose weight prior to being on a GLP-1, you know, I've tried to lose weight so many times, and I would have attempts where I would lose maybe 10 pounds in a month. But yeah, whenever I saw that I had lost that much weight in a single month on a GLP-1 is, I think, when it clicked for me that this journey was going to be different. And it was because I had a tool that actually was going to make this work, because I have put in the effort in the past and I have been successful to a degree, but I think being on a GLP-1 definitely takes it to another level. So that first month I was highly motivated, obviously. After that was pretty freaking awesome. Going into February, I'm just looking at my picture kind of from January to February. I feel like I can definitely see some of the like inflammation in my face has kind of gone down, started to go down just a little bit. And I feel like I'm always the type of person that when I do lose weight, I always see it like in my face first. And even to this day, like I still carry most of my weight in my midsection and my belly. I always have. I feel like I can definitely though see that that was probably the first little change I noticed after losing the first 26 pounds. In February, I lost 8.4 pounds and 6.85 inches. From February to March. Is March? Yeah, it's March. I was thinking May. January, February, March. So from February to March, honestly, I don't really see any major changes. If anything, I almost feel like my face looks a little bit rounder, a little bit more puffy in my March photo for some reason. One thing that is kind of interesting though, as you can see, in January, I lost 5.72 inches, but in February, I lost 6.85 inches. So even though I lost significantly less pounds in February, I still lost more inches. And so again, that just kind of goes to show you like you can't solely rely on the scale to measure progress, because inches do matter. And losing inches while not losing as much weight is something that can be a sign of water retention, but it also can be a sign of you're building muscle or just body recomposition is happening. So I, again, just highly recommend take your measurements at least once a month. So in March, I lost a total of 14 pounds and 11.2 inches, which is really good. Looking at my picture for going into April, so I feel like in my April picture, definitely can see again, my face is looking a little less round than it was in March. In April, I lost 9 pounds and 9.85 inches. Looking at April going into May, I look so rough in this picture. I also just want to point out in the background, I can see all of my daughter's like baby things. I had mentioned that I started my weight loss journey 3 months postpartum, and that was such a rough transition. Obviously, at this time, I was also working from home. I was working full-time, but remotely from home, taking phone calls, and then having a newborn. This was just such a rough period of my life, and I feel like this picture I took on May 1st, I just look so drained in my face. I can see it. So in May, I lost 8.6 pounds and 7.86 inches. As you can see, for the first like 5 months, I was losing on average anywhere from, if we don't count January, which was honestly an anomaly, for the rest of the months, I was losing anywhere from 8 to 14 pounds, so a good amount, a good solid amount of weight every single month. And then we get into June, and I would say right around June, right around the 6-month mark is when I started to notice a significant change in how I was feeling on my GLP-1 medication. I guess I honestly probably should have also mentioned how I was titrating up on this. Okay, I want to apologize. I didn't even think about that part. Oh my god. Okay, so I'm going to be honest with you guys. I did not keep track of what milligrams dosages I was on during my journey. I probably should have, and that's something I would also recommend to anyone who's starting a GLP-1 journey, is to definitely write down what doses you're taking when you're increasing and stuff, because that could be helpful to know. I did not keep track of that, but if my memory serves me correctly, I want to say that I stayed on the loading dose of 2.5 milligrams for at least the first like 3 months before I moved up to 5. And then once I got on 5 milligrams, I stayed on 5 for a couple months. I really took my time with titrating up, and that is something I recommend. I feel like the longer you can stay on a lower dose, the better. Obviously, if it gets to a point where a lower dose is just not working for you, you're not losing weight, or you're having food noise and cravings, increase your dose. Like, don't hold back. But I do feel like kind of taking it slowly was beneficial for me, because as someone who had, at the time when I started, over 200 pounds to lose, you know, that's a lot of weight to lose. And so I wanted to be able to utilize a GLP-1 for this process for as long as possible. Like I said, I stayed on the loading dose for, I'm pretty sure, at least the first 3 months, and then I upped to 5, stayed at 5 for several months before going to 7.5, and kind of so on and so forth. My highest dose I got up to was 12.5 milligrams, and the max dose, for anyone who doesn't know, the max dose of tirzepatide is 15 milligrams. So after 12.5, it would go to 15. I did not ever do the max dose, but yeah, 12.5 was working relatively well for me. At the same time though, I've been in a stall for like 3 months, so yeah, but I guess we'll get into that later. But yeah, around June is when I felt like I noticed the GLP-1 started to kind of, I don't know if my body just got used to being on it. I have seen studies that say that a GLP-1 medication usually works the most effectively within the first 6 months of someone being on it. In June, I lost 4 pounds and then 2.51 inches. So literally like half of what I lost in the month of May. And then the inches significantly less as well. And I don't even honestly remember what was going on in June. I want to say, actually, I think in June we did go on a little mini kind of vacation, so that definitely played a role in it. Obviously, I think we went to the beach, yeah, and so I'm sure that obviously affected things. Going into July, so in July I lost 9.8 pounds and 8.48 inches. So kind of got back on the wagon, I guess, after vacation mode was over, which was good. Then going into August, I lost 5.6 pounds and 6.06 inches. So looking at my full calendar view here, I can see that after August, for the rest of the year, pretty much we no longer lost close to 9 pounds. What are you doing? I apologize, my husband just walked in and distracted me, but basically after August, I pretty much started losing anywhere from like 5 to 7 pounds instead of the like 8 to 14 that we were losing in the first half of the year. In September, I lost 7.4 pounds and 6.42 inches. In October, I lost 6.8 pounds and 5.52 inches. In November, I lost 5.8 pounds and 7.17 inches. And then in December, I lost 6 pounds and 5.25 inches. Now that I think about it, I do also kind of wonder if the fact that like all of the holidays are pretty much at the end of the year, you know, like Thanksgiving, Christmas, all that, family get-togethers and stuff definitely can impact a weight loss journey. And so it's definitely possible that that also was playing a role, but a big, by and large, part of me believes that it had a lot to do with the GLP-1 kind of starting to not work as effectively as it did in the first 6 months of my journey. So moving into the year of 2025, starting with January, I do want to say I feel like when I look back at my body shots that I took for each beginning of each month, I feel like there definitely were like eras, if you will. I feel like there was like groups of months where I did not see significant change, like on a month by month basis. I feel like I stayed relatively looking about the same, like as far as my body goes. And then it would like switch to where I'm looking a little bit different all of the sudden. It's almost like a cumulative effect, if that makes sense. Like, I stay looking the same for a couple months until my body like catches up with the fact that I've lost a bit of weight, and then all of a sudden it's like I shrink just a little bit and then stay that little size for a while and then shrink again. I feel like the first probably 6 months of my journey, I honestly looked pretty much the same. I would say maybe by like June, I would say that I can see a big noticeable difference in just my size from the beginning to June. And then I feel like I kind of saw another shift in my appearance once I got to about December. And then I would say from like December up into maybe like April of 2025, I stayed looking relatively the same. Yeah, I don't know, that's a tangent. So going into January of 2025, I lost 6 pounds and 3.6 inches for the month of January. I remember when I was starting off in January, I'm pretty sure at this point I had been sharing my journey here with you guys. I want to say I started actually sharing my journey on YouTube when I was about maybe 6 months into it. I had already lost 70 pounds. 70 pounds down was kind of my first like video where I actually talked about the fact that I was on a GLP-1 and trying to lose weight. I think I lost my first 70 pounds in the first 6 months. So I had been sharing my journey with you guys for a little bit, and I just remember in January I had been feeling kind of frustrated with myself because I felt like for the last 3 months of 2024 I had only lost on average like 5 pounds a month, and I was just feeling really discouraged by that. Obviously now that I am even further into this journey, I realize that 5 pounds a month is actually like fantastic progress, and lately I've been struggling to hit that. So yeah, you can totally see how the weight loss really does slow down, especially once you get down to a lower weight. It just does, it slows down. And I think that was a really hard mindset shift for me to make, because for the past decade of yo-yo dieting, I had always been right around 300 pounds, you know? And so when you're 300 pounds, it's relatively easy to lose 10 pounds in a month. It honestly doesn't take a ton of effort. Like if you track your calories and stay in a moderate deficit, you can honestly realistically hit that. At my current weight, being in the 190s, I honestly feel like it would just be really, really hard for me to lose 10 pounds in a month. I try hard and I still don't lose anywhere near that. So I think a lot of it just has to do with the fact that yes, I was a heavier size for a lot of years, and so the idea of losing 10 pounds in a month felt like nothing. And then once I got down under 200 pounds and realized, oh shit, like it's actually really, really hard to lose 10 pounds and it might take like 3 months to lose 10 pounds. That was a hard pill to swallow for me. It definitely was. In February of 2025, I lost 7.6 pounds and 10.52 inches, which is actually amazing. That was a really good month. March of 2025, I lost 2.4 pounds and 2.94 inches. And to be fair, I feel like, honestly, it's kind of hard to say if I really only lost 2.4 pounds in the entire month of March, because I feel like some of the weight I lost in February was probably towards the end of the month. So I don't know, I feel like the way my body is, like, I hold on to weight around certain times of the month and let it go around other times of the month. And so typically, you know, if I'm holding on to weight towards the end of the month, 1 month, but then the next month I'm like releasing that weight towards the end of the month, I don't know, I feel like it all kind of blends together and it all kind of evens out, if that makes sense. Like if I lose 7 pounds in 1 month but 2 pounds the next month, on average it's more like I lost 4 pounds each month. I don't know, I'm not making sense. In April I lost 5.2 pounds and 2.67 inches. And in May I lost 5.4 pounds and 3.23 inches. So at this point I would say, yeah, I was basically averaging around 5 pounds a month. I'm trying to remember when I increased to 12.5, and again, I mean, I documented it here with you guys. I just haven't like taken the time to look back at all of my old videos to see when I did that. I guess I could. Maybe I will. If I do go back and try to figure that out, I will pop it here on the screen somewhere for you guys, because I know that information is kind of relevant. Yeah. So in June, I lost 2.6 pounds and 4.05 inches. July, I lost 7.4 pounds and 5.52 inches. It's a really good month in July. I don't really remember what was going on in July. That might have been maybe when I increased to 12.5. In August, I lost 2.4 pounds and 3.88 inches. And then, as many of you may know, this last month in September, I, for the first time in the past 21 months, lost no pounds and 4.67 inches. That is the full past 21 months of me being on compounded tirzepatide. And like I said, I did take my last dose last Tuesday, and I will not be on GLP-1 going forward until further notice. At this point in the process, I do fully plan to get back on a GLP-1 at some point in the future, but for now I am taking a break from it. One thing I will say, looking at my pictures from September to October, I definitely feel like I can see like my waist seems a little bit more smaller, like in the middle, and I did lose 4 inches. So again, you know, I realize that a lot of it could just be body recomposition happening. I, throughout this whole process since the very beginning, have worked out at least 3 to 5 days a week. Honestly, 3 days a week was mostly in probably like the first month, and then since then it's been 5, at least 5, sometimes even 6 times a week, going to the gym, doing my cardio, and then weight training. I've been weight training this whole time as well, so I know I've put on muscle, and I know that I have gone through some body recomposition. And so I do realize that that also plays a role in the scale and stuff. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie though, seeing no pounds lost in a month does suck. Overall, I feel like being on a compounded GLP-1 medication was such a key in me being successful over the past 21 months and in losing 150 pounds. Like, I definitely feel like I would not have been as successful as I was had I not been on a compounded GLP-1 medication. That's not to say that I feel like there's no way I could have lost any weight on my own, because I have lost weight on my own. The most I've ever lost completely on my own, I did lose 80 pounds at one point, and would have continued on that journey had I not had a traumatic experience and stuff happened. And basically I fell off and went into a deep depression and regained most of that weight. But that being said, I do, like I said, I feel like, yeah, a GLP-1 is such a amazing tool, and if you are someone who has been on the fence about it, I say go for it. I genuinely say go for it. Of course, though, everyone's different, and I don't think being on a GLP-1 is for everyone, but I do think that there is a large portion, especially in America, with so many people being overweight and obese, I do feel like there's a large percentage of our population that could genuinely benefit from being on a GLP-1. But at the end of the day, of course, being on a GLP-1 is a tool, and that's all it really is. It's a tool, and in order for it to work, you have to work it. You have to put it to work. You still have to put in the work. But yeah, I definitely think, though, it can make the rewards from your effort so much greater than just doing it on your own. So that is all coming from the perspective of, again, a 29-year-old female with PCOS who has struggled with BED and things of that nature for the past 10 years. So yeah, that kind of is closing the chapter on this GLP-1 weight loss journey for me for now. I don't know what I'm going to be calling my weekly weigh-in vlogs anymore, because they're technically not GLP-1 weekly weigh-ins. But I'm definitely going to be continuing my weekly weigh-ins because I am continuing my weight loss journey. It is not stopping, and I will continue to share it with you guys. So again, if you have not joined the family, don't forget to do that, because this is not over. This is not over. We have not gotten to goal, and we're going to keep striving towards it. For now, though, we are just now on a natural weight loss journey for the first time in about 21 months. So, yeah. Anyways, I think I've rambled enough in this video. If you made it this far, leave whatever emoji this is in the comment section to let me know. And as always, I really appreciate you guys so much for watching. I will see y'all in my next one.